first of all, how did you get into your business? It's such a unique space for somebody to find themselves.
It really is, because I always get asked, like, how did a female get into men's health? And there's, like, nobody doing that, right? So I've always tried to make this story very short, but when I graduated, we all want to work with athletes. And I grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, which is a very wealthy town. It had 9 golf clubs. It was like the Wall Street guys, the finance guys, because it was the first town out of New York City. So that's where everybody lived, and then they'd commute into New York. And so I was like, cool. Well, my strength conditioning internship, they offered to pay me like $15,000 for the year, which can't really live on that. And Greenwich, not a place really to train athletes unless you're at the pro level, which I wasn't right out of college. So I worked at a gym, and I started training more and more guys that played golf. And I was like, oh, well, this is a sport. And these guys have money, they can afford training, and they actually take it seriously. I'm going to be a golf fitness person. And I didn't know shit about golf. So I played soccer in college. So I was like, all right, I'm going to now try and make a ball that doesn't move. So I took golf lessons with pros in the area and bartered for training with them. And I was like, there's something to this. Like, this is actually neurotically fun, because why can't I hit this thing that doesn't move? And the Titleist Performance Institute has a whole program on being a golf fitness professional. So I went through every level they had. I became the go-to golf fitness person. And I had more and more male clients, because women were more focused on like fat loss and stuff like that, especially in Greenwich. Like, no one wanted to get jacked. Like, everyone was like Pilates, yoga, lean, vegan, Tiva sandals, whatever. So all the guys wanted to be golf strong. And those conversations would go away from how do I hit the ball farther to how do I get more energy? I don't feel so good. And that would turn to like a hormonal talk. And I was like, no one's talking to them about this. And they opened up very easily to me, because I'm empathetic and I'm a woman. And, you know, you guys don't go into the locker room and you're like, dude, like, I can't get it up. Problem.
I don't know.
I don't think you're having that conversation, or like, you know,
stem cell for that.
Yeah.
It's right. Girth.
Yes. Women are very social. They talk about these things. And so I would have these conversations with these guys that felt awful. They'd never had blood work. Like, they didn't know what direction to go. So yeah, they wanted to play really well, but they wanted to look good in their golf clothes. And I was like, well, shit, this is like a whole niche in itself. And so I started just learning everything I could about men's health, physiology. I attended medical conferences. I spoke at one. I was like, this is an area that nobody has really captured, and no one as a female has captured. And so that was back in like 2008. And then I got into the hormones, learning all that stuff like 2011. And now here we are, 2024. And my business is now completely online. We coach men who basically feel stuck. Like, they've either had experience in the gym, they've gotten lean before, or they're just a little overweight and they don't know how to actually get jacked or get shreddy lean, because they always do it wrong.
And your business is far expanded beyond just golf professionals, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're taking men of all walks of life.
Yes, I have like one foot in the door at the golf world, but like, you know, I was on the Golf Digest top 50 golf fitness professional list 2 years in a row. And now I've been kicked off that because I'm not in the golf world, which is fine. And I still am very close with a lot of people in that world. And we do have clients that do play golf.
Sure.
So we understand that, because we do attract that type of person, but that's not like my niche or what I'm known for anymore. So now it's the men's health. So like Queen of Men's Health, that was my nickname given to me by my friend Alan Cosgrove. So yeah, so that's like my thing. That's how I fell into it, basically, because I just naturally got along with guys a lot easier than women, because I'm a bro and a tomboy.
Did you grow up with brothers or anything like that?
I have an older brother. Yeah. Oddly, I went to an all-girls school for 11 years, so I don't know if that's what like pushed me away from. No, I'm kidding. I think it was more growing up in Greenwich, because the women that I trained were very, how do I say this? I wasn't into what they were into, which were designer bags and clothes and stuff. I'm into cars. I'm into sports. I played sports in college. So naturally, I would have that conversation with guys.
Yeah. You mentioned a certain level of comfortability that men have when they come to meet with you, as opposed to perhaps a male physician or a clinician.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Because you're right. You are the only female in this particular niche in the space that I've ever met or interacted with. Why do you think that is?
I think it's the empathy. I think they feel comfortable because it's not a pride thing. And men are very competitive by nature. So I think they just naturally feel comfortable talking to me. I've been told I'm very easy to talk to. And I kind of draw stuff out of them because I'm like, tell me about your relationship. Tell me about, how long have you and your wife been together and stuff like that? Because we know how that affects someone's progress in fitness.
Sure, yeah, of course.
But nobody talks to them about
and
that.
your sex life's a pretty clear indicator of how's your testosterone. I mean,
Yeah.
asking that question is very awkward
Exactly.
and interpersonal and don't really want to talk about it with a dude.
Yeah, I think that's it too. Because I have like no shame. I'll ask anything as long as they'll answer.
I can see this. I get that energy from you. Yeah.
And I ask permission. I'm like, do you mind if we discuss your relationship? Because and then I'll tie that to why that's important.
Yeah.
Guys don't think like, oh, I want to get 10% body fat to why are we discussing my trauma in childhood and like my history with ED and stuff. So now they do. Now they kind of know what they're getting into when they talk to me. So
when you first meet with like a guy, speaking of indicators, is there anything that will tell you right off the bat, hey, this guy's going to follow through and be successful, or this person's probably going to spin their wheels and not?
I like that question. So I do all our application calls, and I will say guys who know that this is what they want to work with the best at what they're getting. They feel that bringing everything together the way that we do is the answer. They have no doubt that this is what they want to do. They will do very well. The guys who are like, they're unsure of themselves. In the past, they've failed at multiple programs. They feel they need to ask their wives permission versus support. Really big one. I actually posted that on my IG stories today. So many people were messaging. They're like, oh my God, I need to put this on, our intake form, or I need to put this at our patients list and stuff. Because I said one of the requirements to work with us is a certain level of income, demanding to work with the best, and not needing to ask your wife's permission.
I like that.
That's on the form?
That it was on my stories. On my IG stories.
That's amazing.
What is it about
truth.
a guy that has to ask their woman? What is that indicative of in their relationship, or how your relationship with them is going to turn out?
So I think there needs to be a precedent set for it. It's not because we're not cheap, right? So it's not that you're just blowing money and not telling your spouse. But for example, like if I wanted to buy like I have an expensive Jeep, I told my husband I want this Jeep. I'm going to get this Jeep. I didn't say, hey, can I get this Jeep? There's a difference. And when I talk to him about it, do I have your support in getting this? When it comes to coaching, it's not, hey, I'm going to buy this program and nutrition plan, because that's not what we do. It's literally a whole experience, right? We're going to change his life. So it's asking for support to show up as the man that you married, the man that I know I can be, the man that is going to make me more productive, more confident, and just an overall better person. Can I get your support in that? Because if you lead with the price, of course, people are going to freak out. So that's where the discussion lies in it. Because I always say, I know how this discussion is going to go. I'm happy to help you with that, because a man may not have the correct format to present this to the wife, because he's just thinking sticker, right?
Yeah.
So you have to
And
approach
so is she.
Yes.
She will be too.
And she has no idea what goes into it because she wasn't on the call. So if she can be on the call, great. Or let's hop on another call, or call her right now, or get her on this Zoom call right now. Because you want to ask for support in something that's going to help both of you, but you have to frame it that way.
Right. But not permission. Support,
Correct.
not permission. Yeah.
Yeah, whether she's the breadwinner or not, I don't care. But either they use it as a deflection for it being a money thing, and they can't just say, I really can't afford it, or, this is not something that I want to do. You can always push that to the side. Finances aside from this, is this something you want to do? Okay, this is the discussion that needs to be had. And they take to that well from me or somebody on my team, because we're very direct. I think a lot of people are like wishy-washy and dance around stuff, and it's like, no, this is actually, it's going to work. If you do what we tell you to, we are with you every step of the way. And we literally are helping you to not piecemeal your entire life. Like your doctor over here, nutrition over here, health over here. Like it's too many things, and there's too many voices in the ears. So
it's a one-stop shop. It fixes everything
basically,
in one
yeah.
location.
Like, let us handle it. We got you. Don't worry. You know, because how frustrating is it where your doctor says one thing and then the next doctor you ask has another thing and then the next one. So you're collecting practitioner opinions, which takes time, which is money, right. You know, and you're spinning your wheels and then your coach is telling you one thing and then the nutrition person is saying a whole other thing. And it's like, shit. And then they're reading the internet, which says 9 different things every day.
At least.
It's like, you know, and we've had guys say that. Yeah, I came to you because I was literally doing this program and then I went and did this program because then I got bored and did this and then this guy said this and this person said this and then my doctor said that. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to eliminate is all the noise, because there's a lot of noise, because people now say things to get people upset, which may or may not be true on the internet. Like if I said I like coffee, guarantee you 10 people would be upset for whatever reason.
Somehow. Yeah.
Every time I talk about deli turkey, diet soda, or Sour Patch Kids.
Deli turkey?
Oh, yeah. So there's a thing.
What's the
So think of like fast food, right?
Yeah.
So if a client is like on the road and they're like, what can I get that's fast? Run into a grocery store, grab a package of deli turkey or Instacart it to your hotel. It's pure protein, right? Okay. In the 80s and 90s, we had Oscar Mayer that was like literally, you know, taken from like pig's feet and made into whatever.
Yeah.
Every time I post about it, it's like the nitrates, the carcinogens, it's going to kill you and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, dear Lord. And the people saying this, of course, have no profile photo, 5 followers, you know. Okay, I'm not sure anyone's died from deli turkey yet. And I think it's a better option than Wendy's drive-thru. Yeah. Just saying, you know, but they're so like.
You're also presenting an option for something that's meant to be on the go. Like, you're like, I'm on vacation. I need this sent to my hotel room. Yeah, I'm not saying eat this every day as your max.
Yeah, like all day, every day. But same with Sour Patch Kids. Like, people are like, oh, the dyes and the food dyes. And I'm like.
But the pump.
I know you said don't have the mic, but I want to like bang my head on the mic. But like, yeah, because there is some science to that. And then I literally alluded to a fake study by Gilbert, who is me, and McGinn, who is Ryan McGinn, my content guy. I said, by Gilbert and McGinn et al. In 2024, July 20th. Like, and people are like, "Where's this study?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, it's not a real study."
Oh, no.
Like, you guys, it was complete satire that went. Whoosh.
Yeah.
Isn't the internet? It's just an interesting place.
Humanity exposes itself by just the comments alone. And that, like, since Mark Bell, it's just escalated. And, like, at first, I was like, oh, my God, these people are so vicious. And now I'm just so used to it because it's, like, the same bullshit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are these guys so... And then I want to help them because I'm like, why are you so miserable?
Yeah.
Who hurt you?
Well, it's definitely a toxic place, but it's also undeniable. I mean, without it, we wouldn't be here. I mean, the internet has both sides to it. It's both toxic and awesome. Depends on what you do with it. Depends on how you use it. And you're right. If you're going to be somebody who's in front of the camera, you need to develop a thicker shell. You can't.
Like, you sign up for it, so, you know.
And for every single toxic comment or somebody who says something negative, you'll have somebody who will come up to you and say, oh, my word, your content has changed my life. I've been following you. You may not know this because I never comment on your stuff because those people are out there. But their lives are shaped by everything you do. They love the information that you give, and it actually does help them. When you meet those people, then you're like, okay, this is all kind of worth it. This is why I do this, because I definitely 100%. Don't do this for those comments from those people that hate me.
No. Those trolls, honestly, they help the engagement, but it's the people that it really resonates with that when they do message you that it's like, oh, you know, it does make it all worth it because there's so much bullshit. What we try to do is like project that we're normal people too, because we do get guys that they're like, I'm not going to bring 6 Tupperwares to my kids' lacrosse tournament over the weekend. And we're like, you don't have to. Go to the gas station, get a Core Power.
Deli
it's
turkey.
Okay.
Like,
grab deli turkey.
Go get deli turkey.
Yeah. Like, and they're like, oh, you guys eat this stuff and you look like this and you live normal. And I'm like, yes. Because we do have guys that come from like prep coaches and they're like, I couldn't have shakes. I couldn't have Greek yogurt. I couldn't have cereal. I couldn't have like any. And I'm like, so you can have fun, basically. That's what you're telling me, you know?
Transitioning to something you said a few minutes ago, you mentioned that a lot of people who come to you for TRT, for hormone replacement therapy in any way, they're doing it wrong. And I remember a time, I'm just old enough to remember a time before TRT was as mainstream as it is now, where you actually have clinicians that are doing this and you don't have to go down to Mexico anymore and get your own.
No.
But how do you see people still today doing this sort of replacement therapy inappropriately? How are people abusing this? And how is it that you guys do it differently?
So it's different by state, I would say, because for some reason there's different laws in every state, right? So I live in Florida, which is like the Wild West. So you can walk into some of these clinics. Actually, they don't even have brick and mortars, but you can call them and be like, you know, yeah, I have low T. And they're like, cool, do you want Winstrol, Anavar, Deca? Like, what do you want? And you could get anything, literally. Whereas
Florida.
in New York, they're like, you can't have shit, you know? So they're very strict up there. But the way that it's done inappropriately is basically people who are capitalizing on being able to own a clinic. So I could own a clinic, even though I'm not a doctor, but I could partner with doctors to own a clinic and still benefit monetarily.
You don't, though. You don't own a clinic. Okay.
No. So that in conjunction with giving out similar protocols to people just because it's easy, because it's a volume game, kind of like a Planet Fitness gym membership, you know? So they play the numbers game. They get a lot of prescriptions, and then they make money over monthly fees where it's like a management fee. They send you syringes and stuff like that. So most of these clinics are giving guys 1 shot a week, which is more of an antiquated protocol. 2 to 3 times is best if they're doing injections. So they'll give
2
them
to 3 times over 1 week.
Yep.
Why is, because I've heard this several times, why is 2 to 3 injections per week optimal over 1 injection done once?
So even though the half-life in the most common one is cypionate, even though the half-life is upwards of like 5 days, if you do it multiple times, it aligns more with your natural release pattern versus 1 shot all in one. It escalates and then you start to crash and then you don't feel as good before your next shot. So that's why it's a little bit better. There are guys who'll do daily and they'll do it subcutaneously. Have at it. Like,
you're just poking yourself a lot,
you know,
which could get...
Some people like it. Some people remember better to do their shot if they do it daily versus 2 to 3 days a week, or if they travel or whatever, you know, that goes into it. But a lot of the clinics will give 1 shot a week, and then they'll also add in an estrogen blocker, and then they'll add in something like HCG, which is meant to stimulate the testicles to keep endogenous testosterone production, or
avoid muscular testicular atrophy.
Correct.
Sort of thing.
Which I tell guys, we don't care. You guys care. We don't care.
Oh, women don't care.
Yes.
Women don't care about the size of a guy's balls?
No.
What?
And the guys will say, no, my wife. I'm like, okay.
Maybe that's just something that guys with medium to small dicks say. That they care about the balls because the balls seem much more prominent if you have a
it
small...
adds a little bit to the overall package.
It makes everything else look bigger.
Shit, man, I care about the size of my ball. I wouldn't want to have small balls. That'd be weird. It doesn't. It does matter. There's no way it doesn't not matter.
To you guys.
She said to us.
It matters
she said
to you.
us.
It doesn't matter to women at all.
Have you met a woman who's like, oh my God,
balls?
No, actually,
or like
I don't think
we're
I
not
have.
like. I've never called a girlfriend and been like, oh my God, the sex was terrible, but he had these big balls. Like that, you just don't see that happening. So it's a thing.
But HCG is designed to stop the shrinkage. Is this its
yes? Because the
primary...
reason they shrink is when you get testosterone exogenously, your testicles are like, oh, cool, we're not needed anymore, so they shrink.
Oh, okay. That makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. Which is why you run them simultaneously. You run HCG and testosterone in the same regimen.
You can, if that's something you're worried about. However, not all guys do very well on HCG. So
how come?
First of all, it is a female pregnancy hormone, so it's not something that guys are really deficient in. They can have a lot of side effects like moodiness, water retention, just overall like they don't feel right is how they explain it.
Okay.
So any clinic that says you need it with testosterone makes money off of it.
Got it.
So
it is expensive.
And it is expensive.
I run it with my testosterone. It's $200, $250 a vial. Something like that from the
and
pharma.
when that price
good upsell.
escalated, they started giving gonadorelin, which is a peptide that is supposed to do the same thing, but they're telling guys to inject that like a few days a week, but it has a half-life of 45 minutes, so it actually needs to be injected multiple times
What's
a
the
day.
half-life of HCG as opposed to that?
I don't know, actually.
It's got to be longer
it's
than
a few
45
days.
minutes.
It's a few days.
Yeah, it has to be.
Yeah.
That would make 45 minutes. So what? Your
Yeah.
balls inflate like a balloon and then shrink right away 45 minutes later?
It's just like their replacement for HCG if they...
Cheaper? I assume it's more
cheaper.
affordable?
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so non-pregnant patients, it says HCG is about 2.32 days.
Makes sense.
Non-pregnant. Well, I
Non-pregnant.
was gonna say men can get pregnant now. Can they? I don't know. What can you say anymore?
Don't ask Google.
Yeah,
I was about to
I'm
say,
not gonna ask.
There's
I'm not gonna
another
Don't
thing you
ask.
don't ask the
Yeah.
internet.
Don't ask Google. Yeah.
Depends on what state you're in.
Yeah, it depends. It depends.
State of
exactly.
denial.
State of denial. We can get pregnant.
And I'm curious because I know HCG is also men's fertility. If they cycle off TRT, they want to use HCG to potentially have a kid one day. Can you, if you're running HCG and testosterone together, can you get a girl pregnant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a great question because that comes up a lot, and there's a lot of misunderstanding around this because there are clinicians who'll say you have to come off testosterone completely.
Right.
You don't have to. It'll make you feel awful.
Yeah.
So if testosterone worked as a contraceptive for men, that's what would be used as a contraceptive for men. So there are bodybuilders who take grams of test, among other anabolics, who have gotten a surprise pregnancy.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And they would think, well, I'm going to be sterile because I'm taking grams of test. And so even at therapeutic dosage, it can compromise sperm production, but it's not a guarantee. So the best route to go is...
So I should stop treating it like one?
Yeah, don't.
Oh,
Pull out and pray.
God.
It doesn't work.
Wrap it.
Sorry to
Right.
crush all your dreams.
My
I know.
dreams.
It's like, what's a condom anymore?
Yeah.
But
There was a time when someone legitimately told me that would work as a contraceptive, a male
they
form
still
of birth
tell
control.
people that.
And I told girls, I'm like, don't worry, I'm on testosterone. They're like, oh, cool. And then someone told me, that doesn't work, right? That isn't what that's for at all.
Yeah.
Like, no, I didn't know
You're
that.
like, I'm on testosterone. Look how small my balls are.
Yeah, if you have HCG with it, you have a greater chance of getting people pregnant.
Ooh.
Oh, Brandon.
Oh, great. So that actually, though, for people, that brings up an interesting subject. Could HCG be used for people who are struggling to get pregnant?
Yes. So say a guy wants to go on TRT, because this happens often too, where he's like 32, married, wants to have a kid one day, but his test is like in the floor, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of clinics, this is also what they do wrong, is they put guys on enclomiphene, Clomid,
Yep.
or HCG monotherapy.
Yeah.
Trash. And I have a very strong opinion about this because the practitioners I've surrounded myself with have done a lot of research on this, because basically if you have like a diabetic who needs insulin, you're not going to give them protein to go through a very complicated route to produce glucose.
Mm-hmm.
So, or insulin. So if someone needs testosterone, they're going to do very well on testosterone instead of trying to go around it or take like herbals or something else. So going back to fertility, you would want to get a sperm test beforehand so that if it compromises your sperm production, it's not just blaming TRT, because you know what
your count
what it was. Yes.
before you
So
started.
you get it before, you get it during, just to see how it's affecting it. Then when you're like, all right, I think we want to have a kid in like the next year or whatever, you can bring in HCG and maybe that only will work. Or you can bring in FSH, which is bioidentical follicle stimulating hormone, which produces sperm in men. Those two together are very powerful. And within 4 to 6 months, it should be like game changer. Done, bun in the oven. And then you can come off those and stay on testosterone. So that way men don't have to come off testosterone, feel terrible. Like they're going to have no sex drive anyway. So it's
bad sleep,
a lot
bad
of
recovery.
conflicting opinions on that. But the guys that are in my network don't take men off testosterone at all.
Okay, so there's a conflicting subject. Can a man stay on testosterone forever?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
Never
a
mind, it's very
a
simple.
lifelong commitment.
It's a lifelong commitment. So
Yeah.
once you start, you're on it forever.
And that's what a lot of guys struggle with too, because they're like, I don't want to go on something for the rest of my life.
But I don't quite understand why that is a problem. Because, I mean, unless you're living under a rock, you should be taking a vitamin supplement every single day.
That's the analogy.
You should
I
be
use.
taking a post-workout shake every single day. You do things every single day for your health, electively. And you even do things that aren't necessarily cheap every day, electively. Yep. Why would testosterone be all that much different? I understand that HCG is, perhaps a little controversial, should be ran in a responsible way and is expensive. But testosterone is not. I've had that stem cell cream we were just given costs more than 2 months worth of testosterone. Like,
Yeah.
it's not all that much of a cumbersome burden on your finances, and it isn't that big of a deal. You already do things every single day or every single week for your health. Why is testosterone different?
Honestly, I didn't understand it either. And I'm asking them, and I think it was a pride thing because they're reliant on something else to make them feel like a man again. But also they think maybe something's going to go wrong or something's going to happen. And I'm like, listen, you can come off. Like at any time you have the choice to come off. It doesn't mean you're going to like drop dead the next day. You just won't feel good.
You're going to hate it.
You're really not going to
hate it.
We have not had a client who has like been on T and they're just like, you know what, this isn't for me. So when it's done correctly, people feel really good. People who say, oh, I didn't like it, I had bad side effects, blah, 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 are with one of the clinics that does it poorly.
Yeah.
Where it's 1 shot a week. They're being told to go donate their blood every month because they freak out at their hematocrit and hemoglobin. They're on estrogen blockers, or they're adding clomiphene and HCG when it's not necessary. And clomiphene, in my opinion, is not ever necessary, but HCG can be necessary for sperm production for sure. Yeah.
Or if he is one of those rare cases where he actually cares about the size and girth of his balls.
I have one client who does, and he's like, I know you give me shit. I'm going to stay on.
I would be client number 2. I'd be like, I know you don't give a shit. I do.
I'm like, all right, have at it as long as you feel good, you know. But like guys, they're like, no, I swear my wife. I'm like, let me talk to her, you know. Like there's outliers, I'm sure.
The estrogen blocker subject seems to be a little bit controversial as well. We've had individuals on here who have said it, you know, ruins your synovial joint fluid. It'll cause immobility or problems long term, specifically joints. I hear joints when it comes to estrogen blockers. How valid is that?
It's very valid. There's worse things that it does. So if we think about when women go through menopause, what happens to women? They become more prone to osteoporosis, insulin resistance, they gain belly fat, heart attacks, like heart disease, stuff like that, all because they lose estrogen. The same thing happens to men. The way that women need testosterone, men need estrogen, because a really big benefit of testosterone replacement is the conversion into estrogen. The bodybuilding world decided that was bad, and it makes you turn into a woman and cry and all this stuff and cause gyno. And that's just not true. So it's not an endocrine hormone in men. It's more of a paracrine hormone. So it's produced much differently. So when you measure it on blood work, the amount that comes on blood work is pretty much always going to be high if a guy's on testosterone because it's converting into estrogen. And they have this arbitrary range in labs, just like with the testosterone levels, because it's like, you know, the lowest to the highest, and it's like everyone's normal. The lab range, they'll go off, well, it's too high. And then you ask why, and they're like, well, it's just bad. It's going to cause a stroke or heart attack or something. And it's just very bizarre because that's not actually true. If you study how estradiol works in men, it's neuroprotective, it's cardioprotective. It actually helps decrease insulin resistance. So belly fat can go down. If a guy blocks or suppresses or crushes his estrogen, then his joints will be affected because it does affect bone density. You will feel like you could have erectile dysfunction from too low estrogen. Your libido can go down. You can have a lot of those same issues that men think high estrogen causes. And this is a major battle in the TRT world because the clinics give it out like candy, and they say you have to take it, and then guys will take it, and it's horrible. And I've seen DEXA scans on guys who came to us who are on anastrozole, the main one, multiple days a week. Over time.
They take it multiple days a week?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Like 3 times a week.
That's aggressive.
Even if you take it once a week, take it no times a week.
Yeah.
But his DEXA scans, he was like borderline osteopenia, and he was 50 years old. And I was like, dude, and he was a beast in the gym.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this shit is not good. And he's like, yeah, my doctor really fucked me over.
Wow.
So it's a very poor thing.
Is this reversible, this case?
You can come off, you can come off of it and then
bone
rebuild
density,
and stuff.
all that.
There's different ways to attack it.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's one of those things that you can just ditch.
Okay.
Cold turkey, like there's no issues with that. But guys will, as soon as they feel their nipples like are sensitive or anything, they're like, oh, I need an estrogen blocker. And actually, that's like your body getting used to testosterone. Like you're adding a hormone you didn't have for whoever knows how long.
Does this happen a lot in the beginning?
Yeah.
When people first go on testosterone?
Yep.
Yeah. That's primarily what people in here who talk about the subject say as well. Usually these problems that people think they're going to have usually happen in the first 30 to 90 days.
Yes.
When you first start something.
They freak out. men are very sensitive to that, and it's similar to women when the scale goes up like half a pound. It's like,
yeah, well, no one wants to have. I mean, you mentioned gyno, because what you're saying is very, very countercultural. People don't think that this is the way that this is. Everybody thinks, like you said, if I have too much estrogen, I'm gonna have tits. I'm gonna need surgery. I'm gonna end up like that guy in Fight Club. You remember Bob?
Yeah.
A big part of it. So estrogen is an anti-inflammatory hormone as well. So guys who are overweight and high body fat and insulin resistant are going to produce more of it. Mm-hmm. So it's really like a what's the word? It's jet lag's already got me. The body's increasing in estrogen in response to the fat tissue, because fat is an inflammatory tissue. Yeah. So now there's a lot of aromatase, which is the enzyme that converts test to estrogen in fat tissue. So now it's like hyper converting because it's inflamed. So men who are very overweight and then they go on testosterone experience this 10x, because now they have the conversion of testosterone to estrogen from the exogenous testosterone, and then they're fat, where they need to really just take care of their diet and their training and, you know, all that stuff. And that's why thinking testosterone will like solve all my problems and make my dreams come true is not true. You actually have to address your nutrition, your lifestyle, all that stuff, because the leaner someone is, the better the experience on testosterone is going to be.
Yes.
Men were not designed to have high test levels with high body fat. It just doesn't work that way. So that's why our previous generations, dads, grandfathers, were leaner and more healthy and then had higher test levels, in addition to, like, you know, the toxic environment and all that stuff. But now when we see people who have high inflammation, high body fat, and then they inject testosterone with that, they're going to experience side effects.
And gyno is one of those.
Interesting. Gyno can be caused through insulin resistance, yeah. And guys who were overweight as a kid tend to experience that, and it's also a hereditary thing. So the only way to really remove it is surgically. Yeah. And if you take an estrogen blocker, it actually can make it worse. So there are like guys who think they have to take tons of it, and then they come off it and they're like, oh, my gyno actually improved. And I'm like, how about that?
My God.
But they think I'm fucking crazy in, you know, the bro space, because
bro science.
That's
You're
not,
going against every
know,
gym genius, whoever advised anybody to take this. Yeah.
100%. And I'm well aware of that, and I've talked about that, and then I always will appeal to authority, which is my network of physicians who taught me this. Talk to them, because then they will spit the actual science of everything. But it's amazing how many guys feel good without it. None of our clients are on estrogen blockers, and we have a lot of guys on TRT. And guys who come to us on estrogen blockers, I legally can't say get off your medication, but I can say, like, if I were you, I would consider coming off, because usually they're with a clinic who says you have to take it. And I'm like, well, let's find another place. And we work with Merrick Health, who tends to be evolved and sees things in a way where science is actually used, and it's not the cookie cutter protocol. So
So for men that do come to you that are overweight, is your protocol to throw them on tests and just have a warning like, hey, there's going to be some of these extra symptoms because of, you know, the extra weight you're carrying? Or do you try to get them to lose the weight, shed those pounds, so that their experience on testosterone is vastly different?
So I like that question, because there is a preconceived notion that we just put guys on test, and we don't. I can't legally prescribe test, even though TikTok thinks otherwise, because I get a lot of messages of like, where can I buy testosterone? What brand? I'm like, it doesn't work that way. So we have our guys do blood work, and that's why we outsource that to Merrick. And I know all the practitioners there, and I have a very close relationship, so I can sit in on the reviews with my clients and all that. If someone's overweight, we do try to do everything we can from a lifestyle perspective. But sometimes it's like a chicken or the egg thing. We know that it's going to help. So my colleague, Dave Lee, who's one of the most brilliant health coaches on the planet, he'll be at Silverback. He's from Australia. He's like
him, definitely.
Super,
Yeah, I want to talk to him.
Yeah, I think I hooked you guys up.
You did, yes.
His wisdom is like 10 years beyond me, and he's only 30. Like, literally, you talk to him, you're like, oh my God, how? Anyway, he taught me how overweight guys actually do better on cream, because cream, the conversion is pushed towards 5-alpha reductase, which pushes towards DHT, which is dihydrotestosterone, which is more potent, versus the aromatase pathway, which is toward estrogen. So if they push that way, libido tends to go up a little bit higher. They don't experience some of the effects that they would on injections. And then when they get leaner, they can switch to injections if they want, or they can stay on the cream.
Am I hearing this right? Subcutaneous injections transfer more to estrogen than topical creams? Is that...
Yes.
Yes?
So cream converts to DHT. Injections convert to estrogen.
And how does that relate to somebody who's carrying more body fat? What is that?
So because they have more body fat, they have more estrogen anyway.
I see.
Because of the inflammatory body fat
so
tissue.
Subcutaneous would not be the most optimal path because there's going to be more estrogen from that therapy.
In the beginning with an overweight man. Yeah.
And how overweight are we talking about? Are we talking about 10 pounds or morbidly obese?
So I like to do it by body fat percentage, but not like go get a DEXA and all that stuff. I do the very comprehensive visual eye test where you just look at somebody. So you can tell, like, if you can see your abs, probably you're leaner than 20%. I would say guys who are like 20, 25 and above, they would consider to try cream first. Scrotal.
Get out of here.
No way.
Really?
So the skin on the scrotum is 8 times more permeable than anywhere else. Plus, less likely to transfer. If I rub it on my arm and then I'm like, yo, what's up?
Brandon, where's that stem cell cream?
Where's that stem cell cream? With the stem cell cream on the shaft and the testosterone on the
balls,
scrotum.
Yeah. On the little balls because they shrunk.
Make sure you
get the curve and the testosterone all at once.
We're on to something.
Nicely manscaped, clean shaven.
Right, yeah.
Perfect.
Prep like we would prep for a date. You guys don't do shit. Like, we have to, like... You think we just, like, appear that way. It's like getting ready for, like, a prom or, like, quinceañera or something.
So,
Anyway.
and obviously you have these conversations with, like, hey, listen, you're going to rub this on your balls.
Yeah.
And this is... And never had any... I assume not had any problems with that. Guys are probably more okay with that than they would be with subcutaneous injections, I would imagine.
Yeah, because, like, some guys don't like needles, right? So
right.
they just want to do the cream, and that can be for anybody. Like, there's guys who do better on cream versus injections, or they just don't like needles, or they travel a lot, and they don't want to travel with needles. Like, totally get it.
Yeah.
So slap some cream on the balls. And
what about oral? I mean, oral testosterone supplementation. Have you ever gone down that path?
So that's relatively new, and it has not been found to keep levels stable and high enough.
Why?
Long enough. Don't know.
Probably, I would imagine just the process of liver transfer.
Probably the
everything.
bioavailability.
Yeah.
And
it's like with
the
anything
pharmaceutical
else.
companies will claim that it bypasses that, but we have yet to see that clinically. So
The cleanest way still subcutaneous. I imagine.
or IM, either one.
Okay.
So sub-Q or intramuscular, injection or cream.
Injection.
And that's
or
what
cream.
I tell guys. Yeah, because there's like gels, there's troches, there's pellets, there's nasal sprays, there's like all these. Because you can't patent a hormone that you naturally produce, so you have to find ways to deliver it that you can monetize. So that's why.
Oh, so the patent's on the delivery method, not on
Yes.
the actual.
So a pellet can be very expensive, but it's not very good at delivering testosterone.
You've mentioned the chicken before the egg argument over testosterone, specifically with relation to overweight men. And I think a lot of times when people who are overweight come into the world of supplementation, the goal is ultimately weight loss.
Yeah.
And this is not a subject I really thought we'd get into, but I'm going to do it anyway. I mean, Ozempic is everywhere now. And you're having pretty much the same conversation around this that you were having with testosterone. In fact, when I say I don't like Ozempic, I have problems with it, the biggest counter argument that's put in my face is, well, you're pro TRT. I mean, you take that supplement in order to get your results. What's the difference between you doing that and me getting on Ozempic for my weight loss? And I'd love to hear your opinion on that.
Yeah, I actually think this was last year. I was saying how people always accuse people on TRT of cheating, but they'll run to go get Ozempic. Like,
they do now.
So, you know, it's like,
Very
well,
true,
what is a man cheating at, first of all? Because when women go through menopause and go on HRT, like, no one bats an eye. It's completely normal, socially acceptable, but because testosterone comes in a needle, and it was, you know, in the Steroid Act of 1990, it was a banned substance. Now it's this taboo subject, and there's so many stigmas attached to it. So what are people cheating at with Ozempic? Like, because they're trying to cheat dieting and exercising and all that stuff. Personally, I think that Ozempic can have a place for the jump start of getting the other health markers in order. Because when their triglycerides are all over the place, their lipid markers are all over the place, there's inflammation everywhere because of the body fat, because we have to get the weight off, then it's great to use in a short period of time.
What is a
stay
short
on it.
period of time? My understanding
few
about
months.
and my understanding about Ozempic, the biggest counter argument to the counter argument that I get when I have this conversation is I can stay on testosterone for 50 years. You cannot stay on Ozempic for more than 3 months, at least not without doing massive pancreatic damage and all the other litany of problems that are. That's the problem is these things are new, and when there's anything new on the market, it's going to take a little while before people start realizing, oh, hey, this is actually really bad for this. Your GI tract is entirely effed. You should probably get off this now. That doesn't happen immediately, and I don't know. How old is Ozempic? I mean, it's certainly...
So these medications have been around like 15 years.
For a while.
Right, but it just like all of a sudden gained popularity because there's different versions.
Sure.
So Ozempic is semaglutide, and then I personally prefer tirzepatide, which is Mounjaro. And then there's a new one that came out called Retratrutide. I don't know why everything's like hard
Latin.
to say. Which I have not tried. I've tried semaglutide. I've tried tirzepatide.
On yourself or on
Yes.
clients? On yourself. Okay.
But yeah, we don't have a lot of really overweight guys, so we don't really get people using it.
Why would you try it?
So, because I just wanted to see what it felt like.
Got it.
So I tried each for a month. Semaglutide or Ozempic I hated because I was very nauseous. Just had no appetite.
I've heard,
like it nuked my appetite. So I was like, I can't train. Like I can't train like this because you can't eat enough. And my thing is like, I love cinnamon rolls. You put that thing in front of me, I'd be like, cool.
Wow, it's that powerful.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is.
So
is it a neurological?
Yes.
Okay.
It shuts off your ghrelin.
Yeah.
Is that what
Ghrelin?
it is? Your,
Ghrelin
the
production?
ghrelin, but it also it is involved in behavior change. So people who have addictions, food addictions, or other addictions, they can actually curb that as well. Tirzepatide tends to be gentler, and it has some longevity benefits at low dose. So the problem is when people titrate the dose up and up and up every single week, and then they end up with the delayed gastric emptying, and then they can't poop, and then it's like everything's a mess. Whereas if you keep it very low dose over the course of weeks, it does not nuke your appetite and can actually be beneficial. But people are like, I need more. Like I've literally heard people say, you know, oh, my appetite is like really up. I need more Ozempic. And I'm like, what? I'm like,
and you can hear this. You can hear the messiness of this entire equation just in like what you just said. This is too. The problem is a lot simpler than people want to admit that it is. That is, you cannot figure out your self-discipline. You cannot create the habits that are going to fix the problem that you created in the first place. That's my biggest problem with that. It's different, and that's different than someone with a testosterone depletion. There are people who work out 7 days a week. I am an example of that. When I first went on TRT, I've trained 7 days a week since I was 15. And I went on TRT when I was 25 or 26 years old. Well, my low testosterone was not a result of my bad habits. I just had low testosterone, as most men do. Yeah. I went on it to get optimal, and I've been that way ever since. Somebody with 105 pounds to lose is at that point in their life because of something. And it didn't happen overnight, and I'm sorry, it wasn't genetic. You got this way because you are overweight, because you don't have good habits in your life. There are a number of things you did wrong. Over and over and over and over again, you formed bad habits. Now you need to learn to address those habits. Taking Ozempic is not addressing that habit.
No.
You are still going to have it. You are most likely going to ruin your appetite or whatever it is that happens to you in that litany of problems that you're going to occur. And then you're going to put the weight back on when you inevitably have to go off of Ozempic. And you're going to be worse off than you were because now, like before, most likely somebody who's taking Ozempic has tried to do this in a more naturalistic way and failed.
Yeah.
And now they're going to fail again. And now they're going to feel worse. And now they're going to feel shame. And now they're going to feel... This is why you can't fix this problem until you address the problem that got you there in the beginning.
It needs all of that. Like, it's kind of like, you know, you're just doing one thing without the advising. So you need like that... You need coaching with it, basically. Like there are clinics, like my friend Amy Stuttle owns Victory Men's Health in St. Louis. They offer it, but they offer a program to coach people through how to eat, keeping protein high. It's a men's health clinic, so making sure they eat, making sure they train, all that stuff. Because otherwise, if you leave someone, you know, just on those drugs, they don't know anything. That's going to be the problem, is that they're going to lose the weight, they're going to come off of it, and then they're just going to rebound back because they don't have those habits. They don't have the coaching in that to how to live like that, you know, because it is the drug that we've all been waiting for years, where it's like, why can't I just take a pill?
Take a pill, lose my weight, get my body I've always
All
wanted.
right.
And again, I don't like arguments from purely subjective perspectives.
Right.
But I've interacted now enough with people. This has been popular enough for a long enough amount of time. You and I are in this industry, so people do come to us with this.
Yes.
When I sit down with people, I've had this conversation, we'll just say conservatively, 8 to 12 times. Every single time I'm having this conversation with somebody where they come to me, and a lot of times they'll come to me like, hey, I don't know if you notice, I lost 60 pounds. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. What did you do? Like, did you get a coach or something? Like, no, I got an Ozempic. I'm like, okay, well, what are you doing? Like now, what are you doing now? You're like, well, I mean, I'm on Ozempic. And I'm like, okay, see, this is the problem that's occurring. This is why every single time I have this conversation, that's where it stops. You got on Ozempic. That's your solution. You don't have a plan to continue the plan when that stops.
This is kind of like the conversation we had with stem cells. It's like you can take it, but you also have to get to the root causes of why you're in that position in the first place and
Same
address
with TRT.
those. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Same with TRT.
Absolutely.
Because if guys are overweight and they take TRT, it's not going to help everything. It'll help some things. But you can take TRT forever because it's something.
So this is interesting. I looked this up to make sure, but 95% of individuals who eliminate specific food categories, so like dieting, find themselves reverting to their original weight. 95% of people. And that's not just like trying a diet and failing it.
Yeah.
That's maybe going all the way through and then completely rebounding to where you were.
95. I love the beginning.
95%.
Staggering.
I like the picture even better.
Yeah.
She's laying on the ground.
She's given up.
Next to a tape measure.
Yeah.
That's a scale. That's a scale.
What do you think it is? Why do you think? What is so hard about changing someone's habits or the things they eat that causes 95% of people to just completely
lay on the ground?
Lay on the cover their face and
cry into their hands
and sleep next to the
yeah.
I honestly, because I mean I've been there. I've done, you know, you've probably done every single diet, fad or whatever, just to try it, see what it's like. Like,
sure, yeah.
You know, if you eliminate carbs, you're gonna crave carbs. But if you do everything to the extent that it's extreme, it's unsustainable. You can't do that the rest of your life. Like when people are doing a show, like a physique show, they literally suffer immensely, but they don't do that year round.
Right.
So, you know, everyone wants to compete nowadays because they're like, oh, that looks cool. Looks, you know, and then you actually get to the nitty gritty of like what that dieting like looks like.
Well, it's brutal.
It's the same shit that has been working for years, where it's a very bland diet, very low calorie. You may have to eliminate carbohydrates at some point. It's going to suck. And not a lot of people have the resilience mentally to get through that. But we're not even talking that level. Like, if overweight people knew how easy it was to actually cut a little bit of calories and then lose, like for people like us who are already lean, like it's so hard, you know, to lose like 2 pounds of fat is like, it's just brutal. But when you're really big, it's actually a lot easier. And I think people feel they have to give up absolutely everything, like if they were in prep for a show, and they don't. And it's teaching them that you could actually eat in a way that is sustainable. Like the way that I eat now, like I used to never have like fake things. Like I love protein cinnamon rolls. I love my shakes from the gas station, my deli turkey, if that's fake, whatever the internet thinks it is, or like protein bar or whatever, things that would be like off limits, Sour Patch Kids, whatever. I can eat that now whenever I want, but I don't like face plant in it because I don't deprive myself of it. You know?
Yeah.
If I want a Sour Patch Kid, like I ate some on the plane. Cool. I didn't eat the whole bag because I can stop myself because I didn't deprive myself of it, and it's not like I don't like crave Sour Patch Kids. Like, but like if you stuck like a massive one of those 2-pound like Instagram cinnamon rolls where they take the center out or whatever,
it's so
you know,
over.
like that might take some control, but like I've practiced that control because I haven't deprived. I have had times where I've deprived way too long because I was dieting way too hard and would faceplant into stuff. I did one show in 2011, and literally after, I asked my mom, I'm like, Mom, make me like those funfetti cupcakes, but bring me a jar of Nutella. She's like, what? And I was literally, I ate 12 cupcakes after the show.
There you go.
Dipping them in Nutella with the frosting and the
Wow.
funfetti frosting, dipping it with, I don't know
Oh,
why.
I bet. Well, you're just
Oh
so
my
depleted
God.
It
and
was,
craving.
oh my God,
and-
the cravings, like, it was awful. On Monday morning, it's when I was training in person, one of my clients was like, are you on prednisone? And I was like, no, why? And she's like, you're just really bloated and stuff. Like, like it was bad.
Yeah, I ate a half a
Wow.
gallon of Nutella last
I was
night.
like,
after
I
the
don't know.
show.
I ate a
Your
birthday
insulin just-
party worth of cupcakes, you know.
Yes, Whitney Jones.
Jones.
She came in here, and I mean, look at her. She's
Yeah, she's
like
jacked.
just insane, and she eats like donuts every single day, like pancakes every single day. She's got a ridiculous genetic, more than almost anyone I've ever seen
yeah,
or worked
she looks
with.
awesome.
And her floor routines that she would talk about. She did a floor routine on a broken leg. I mean, she's just an athletic freak.
Her metabolic output is insane. That is the other little factor in this equation that just look at her. That just has to be addressed. You can eat a lot of what you want. What are you doing with the rest of your day, with your life? What kind of habits do you have on your activity level? Do you literally do nothing? Well, yeah, now you probably need to restrict your diet a little bit if you want to literally keep doing nothing. But if you crack the code, this is why exercise is just such a big. People see it as almost like a barrier to entry, like it's a problem. Like, oh, I got to figure out. No, exercise is a hack. It's a shortcut.
It's like the gateway.
If you learn to
Yeah.
exercise, all of a sudden what you eat it's still important, but it's less important. It's not
Totally.
like every single calorie counts. Not really. Not if you're working out 45 minutes to 60 minutes a day. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't count as much.
You know what's funny is like, so I'll be on calls with guys and they'll be like, well, you know, at my job I get like 10 to 12,000 steps a day, and they tell me this in response to, do you do cardio? And I'm like, okay, that's not cardio because that's like moving like a human should.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So
I'm so happy you brought
The
this
steps
freaking
thing.
topic up. I'm sick and tired of the steps argument.
Yeah.
Because now think about also 10 years ago, like no one was tracking their
There's
steps.
steps?
Like no one was saying I'm getting steps. And like even I'll be like, you know, oh, I get 15,000. Like I usually get like 15,000 a day or whatever. But like people think that that's a substitute. And I'm like, no, you're supposed to be doing that. We're not supposed to be sitting
Something
down.
you're supposed to
Yeah.
do.
Like we have to
the
do stuff on
steps.
top of that.
So gay.
It's not like
I
the
can't-
hunter gatherers got to like 10,000.
Yeah.
Oh, we're good.
Oh,
We're
Oh
good.
man, we gotta get back.
Time to
My
sit down.
steps are-
Like I'm late for my bowl cut, you know, like
oh my word! And it's
Yeah.
it just that is if there's not a clearer example of the sad state of the society we live in, where we are like psyched about our Apple Watch counting our steps in the day, and somehow that gives us now I don't even have to go to the gym. You have no idea how many steps I took today. And this is the problem also. This is not just laymen or people who are out of this industry saying this. I'm hearing people in the industry saying like, oh yeah, walking, I mean, that's cool. That can count as like you can get your cardio in if you walk enough. You could do aggressive walk. I'm like, no, I hate that. I
Yeah.
hate this. What sort of a standard are we? Are you an invalid? Are you a 97-year-old person with a cane?
Invalid.
Because if the answer to those questions is no, then no. Walking is not your exercise for the
know.
day. Stop treating it like somehow it's a hall pass. It's not. We suck.
mic drop.
Yeah.
But it's like that, you know, I have a spiel in my talk tomorrow. This is not going to come out before tomorrow, right?
No.
Okay. So like I have this spiel I've run in many different talks where, and I could give you the slides to throw in after because it's better with the effect of the slides. But
Yes.
I'll put up a slide of an 80s TV with Punch Out on it. You remember that game?
Yes, maybe.
Mike
I
Tyson
don't.
Punch Out?
I
Yes,
personally
yes,
don't
I
remember
remember.
that
How old
one.
are you?
No, you're like 12.
20, yeah. Damn.
So it was a boxing game. Do you know who Mike Tyson is?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I'm
That's
with
good.
you. I'm with you on that one.
All right, we're good there.
Yeah, he's fighting that Jake Paul guy.
So it was like, you know, very like nothing like the animated video games that are realistic now, but it was like the game. So anyway,
up?
and on an 80s TV, it had like 13 channels and there was no remote that was universal. You had to get up and change the channel. And then I show a picture of a car door where you had to roll down the window. And then I show a picture of 2 keys because you used to need 2 keys to unlock the other side of a car. And then I show a photo of somebody stalking somebody from the bushes side by side to someone stalking someone on a computer, saying how we don't have to stalk people physically anymore. We can do it from our computer. And then I show a guy lying on a couch with Cheetos, pressing a remote. He's got a VR headset on or whatever. And I'm like, and we can basically order like a wife, food, whatever you want on the internet.
Sex,
to just make the point that we
Transportation.
don't have to fucking move anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we used to have to physically roll down the window and get up to change the TV and all that stuff. And now we can sit on the couch, press buttons. It'll come to us. We can sit in a diaper. We don't have to do shit.
Shit, man, kids' bikes aren't even bikes anymore. Everybody's
Oh my
bike
God,
is electric.
yes!
I hear
Yeah.
like 50 miles an hour. I'm like, your parents suck.
Same thing. We live in a community like this, and I'm like, that's not a bike.
Yeah, no.
It's got a battery
Yeah.
pack. Yeah,
got a
you're
battery
not- you
pack.
Or
don't
if they have
actually-
like a basketball hoop in their driveway, the ball comes back to them. Like it gets like ejected to them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what is this shit?
Yeah.
Like, you know, so people don't move anymore. And that was my point of like generationally, like they're used to not getting outside. Like I would be outside until my mom would be like, Allison, dinner time, you know, because the sun was going down because we didn't have technology and all that stuff. So that's not only destroying movement and physical activity, but social skills and all that. That's a whole other conversation. But
Yeah.
I feel like people should look at this, though, as a really good opportunity. Because if everyone in society is decaying from the bottom and just getting worse, you can get, like, so much better than everybody else you ever meet in the day relatively easily. You just have to have a borderline, like, set of standards for yourself that will take you above everybody else.
You can stand out so much these
The
days.
bar
oh my God,
so
it's like,
low.
Yeah.
you know, being fit, you're such an outlier. Like at the
Oh my
airport, I
God.
get constantly asked, do you do CrossFit? Do you compete? Do you work out? Do you like, and I'm like, why me? First of all, because, everyone else is a slob. Like,
It's so bad. It's
it's
gotten
so
way
bad.
worse, by the way.
and we go to Disney
Yeah.
World a lot.
I was just about to say, when's the last time you went to Disneyland?
That's
Yeah.
where it's just people watching.
Yeah.
We went to Disneyland, and my brother says to me, he goes, okay, we're going to play a game. Because both of us hadn't been there since we were like 4 or 5 years old, my brother and I. He's like, all right, we're going to play a game. The park capacity is about 60,000 people. They're full.
Oh.
It's a holiday. We're going to find one person here more fit than Brandon. I was like, okay.
Good luck.
And
He
there
goes,
was,
and-
there, I
and you
guarantee
have to-
there wasn't.
We saw one. Like one guy where I was like, yeah, that guy, he's solid. That dude actually trains. One. We were
yeah.
there all Saturday up till 1 in the morning. Nobody.
Isn't that it's
Wow.
scary? You see like fat storage patterns that you don't see anywhere else at Disney World. You do, and
You
it's
get some
just like,
pictures of Disney.
I'm like,
Oh,
how did
gosh.
that happen? But if you see a fit person, there's like the fit person nod. Like you walk by them and you're like, like
Yeah,
respect,
yeah.
like
Yeah.
respect, because you just like you're so like unique.
Oh,
That,
yeah.
like,
Is that from
You know?
riding the roller coaster too much?
If I'd have had more time, I'd have rolled my eyes. I'd be like, dude. And he'd have known. He's like, yeah, I know. I see him too.
it's so.
Oh,
Chris, Chris, put that away.
Oh my god.
Oh, no.
she's bigger than the Mickey.
Oh, dear
Oh.
God.
Oh, it's rough. I hate that. I hate when
Chris,
I
get-
see
get rid
a
of that.
fat
Kids.
kid, fat kids with their fat parents doing fat things.
Sad. I've seen kids riding on the mobility scooters with their parents.
Yeah, that breaks my heart
what are
because
you
I'm like,
doing?
then I want to sit the parents down and be like, can we have an intervention?
They're already sitting.
Yeah.
You could just
They're
walk
already
up to
sitting.
them.
Yeah, you don't have
the
to tell
parent
them
needs
to
the
sit down.
intervention.
Yeah, because they're obviously enabling, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
it's, we just grew up so different. My mom would feed me like what is it? Pillsbury cinnamon rolls and then like Eggo waffles and stuff. But if I lived like a kid lives these days, I'd be way overweight.
That's it too.
You know?
People I think sometimes when they meet somebody who's in the industry like this, that, oh, you were just kind of like this forever. Like you must have been
No.
bred like a Spartan when you were a kid. No, actually, my parents, I mean, in my case, my parents were kind of poor. We ate we clipped coupons and ate lunch meat. It wasn't like,
Yep.
oh yeah, steak every day. And it was just active. My mom would put us in the backyard and lock the door and say, drink out of the hose. Don't come back until
Yep.
it's at night.
Yep.
Sorry. Like, that's the way it was. It was just expected that you were going to spend your entire day running around all the time. And now I just don't think I don't really think that's
No,
reinforced.
and that's something I drill into guys when they do want to get healthy and they want to be the model for their kids. That is a massive pain point because kids will model your behavior. You know, they will see you doing that. They'll see what you do. If you have a garage gym, they're going to want to follow you out there and try to emulate you. Like you want to set that standard and you want your child to also be unbreakable with confidence and everything, whether it's a girl or a boy. Like you want them to grow up active and strong and healthy.
We were just talking
Yeah.
about this
But
after the conversation we had last week with your buddy about how important it is to model this for your kids. That you, as a one of the things among all the other things that I detest from what we've talked about, the acceptance of the dad bod in our society. Like that's just, you're like, oh, you got a dad bod, you're a dad. Like that's just kind of like, okay, yeah, he drinks beer, he's a dad. That sucks. That's terrible. That's an accepted norm in society that should never have been allowed in. It should have been ostracized. You cannot just allow yourself to operate 65 pounds overweight and just say, oh, my job is just so much and I have kids, therefore I am.
Yeah.
That's not acceptable.
I say don't use your kids as an excuse, use them as the reason.
Mhm.
And then when you frame it that way, you
I
know,
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
it makes it a
Jake,
lot
you got a lot of reasons.
not easier, but you
3
know.
of them.
Yeah, buddy.
No excuses.
It's also just, I mean, you're doing something for them, and I get a little bit of pushback from this. I mean, for the obvious reasons, I do not have kids currently.
Same.
But I tell my clients, you cannot place your child's well-being before your health. You must be healthy in order to raise a healthy child. And a lot of people do that. I have clients who have openly told me, yeah, when I was going to have a kid, I told myself, you know what, for 5 years, I'll just let it go. And then after that, I'll figure it out. And I'm like, I don't agree with that. I don't like that. I don't think that's right. I don't think it is the right decision to say, I'm going to put my child's health before mine. I'm going to allow myself to be unhealthy so that I can invest the time in my kid. I don't agree with that. I don't like that.
Yeah, I same thing because I don't have kids, and I'm like, well, I have a golden retriever, and his name's Galvatron, and he's my child.
Galvatron.
It's awesome. That's the greatest name I've ever heard.
My husband named him. So he would love it here. But, obviously we don't have that experience, but I also am not a man, and you're listening to me and everything that I'm about.
Absolutely.
So I don't necessarily have to be in the same situation.
Yeah.
But we deal with people who are in that situation who do something with that situation.
Yeah.
And we had one client where he was like, my son said, Dad, all I want for my birthday is for you to not be fat. And I was like,
Wow.
if that doesn't move the needle, I don't know what.
Yeah, it will. I've
Seriously.
seen that with people who are addicted to cigarettes too,
Yeah.
or smoking addiction. And the kid will be like, "Hey, all I want for my birthday is you to quit smoking," and that's all it took. Just
Yeah.
a little impetus from the kid.
That or smoking the whole pack.
Yeah. Or just swinging the pendulum completely the other way.
Totally. But yeah. I
Speaking of kids, and you touched on it briefly.
don't like them.
With the
No.
Other people's kids?
kids being shit.
Galvatron, yes.
With TikTok, you have people in your DMs like, "Hey, where I can get testosterone?" I'm really curious about your thoughts of this surge of young people, especially young boys in high school, teens. They're in the midst of puberty, and they're getting access to, or they're interested or seeing these influencers who are taking all these exogenous hormones and then going out and doing it themselves. And maybe you're just touch on, what they're actually doing to their bodies. What you see is it a problem? Why do you think it's happening? Why is it so
Because of social
pertinent?
media. I think I screenshotted it because for some reason I might have known that this would come up. So there's a kid, 23 years old. He said, "Hey, I'm 23-year-old male. I've been training for about 3 years, thinking about running for my first cycle. Any thoughts?" Oof. I get this a lot.
I bet.
And I said, "Why would you want to do this?" Because I always want to know the why behind this. And he said, "To get more gains from my workout."
Wow, there's an original answer.
And I was like, okay. And I was like, I think it's too early in the game for you. You've only been training for 3 years. You have to give time to eating more food and training hard as fuck. He said, "Okay, you're right." And I said, "I know. Don't fuck yourself up just because you're impatient." And I've had conversations like that where they're like, "I've been training 2 years. I've been training 4 years." And I'm like, have you actually eaten enough to support what you're doing in the gym and train hard enough, consistently enough to see results that you can get? And they haven't. But because of social, because of the guys that they see and they compare themselves to, because we all have played the comparison trap, because everyone's going to respond differently to everything. But because they weren't in the yard when they were kids like us, and you know, having like farm strength, I guess you would call it, like playing outside and all that, they literally just went into the gym at 20 and now they've been training for 3 years and they're not growing because they don't have the right coaching. You know, maybe they didn't play sports in high school, or they never had a strength coach or anything like that. So now they're jumping to, well, it's so quick to get, I want to go on trend. And like, it's like, why trend is like the
I
first
would
thing.
also ask, if that was the question directed at me, you want to do your first cycle, what does that mean? First of all, why? I mean, I now granted, I don't have the bodybuilding community in my ear the way you do, but I never advise anybody to do a cycle of anything. I don't give a shit who it is. You shouldn't be cycling hormones. You should be clinical testosterone replacement therapy under the guise of a clinician, done forever, because we both agreed on that. It's a forever decision. That's the only way I advise anyone to go down this road. Yes. There is no such thing as a safe cycle. I'm sorry, there isn't. You shouldn't be cycling anything.
Or they think they should cycle testosterone because that's what they should, because someone told them.
Yeah.
So, and I have no problem with younger guys going on TRT. Similar to you, we have clients who are 25, 26.
25. That's young.
They absolutely needed it. And the problem is a lot of clinics were like, well, you're too young, so we'll give you enclomiphene. And
how
all that
young
stuff.
were you when you first went on testosterone?
Me and Chris, we're at the same time. We're 21. I got my blood work done same time he did. My level was 320, and my 47-year-old dad at the time got it done at the same time, and he was in the 400s. And Chris was.
I was even low. I think I was in 250 about.
And
It's
Chris
not
has a way.
uncommon now.
You were 250, and you were squatting what? Over 400 pounds? At that time, that video you took, you should see the video of him with a 250 testosterone count squat. This is exactly
That's awesome.
the point I'm making. Is that
me and Chris, that's how we met at the gym together. And so we trained together. We would, put on 4 plates, and, I would do 3 plates. But, and just like monsters in the gym. But I was feeling extremely lethargic, and also diving into my career field, and I'm like, I can't even study, so I went and got my blood work done, and my TRT level was 320, and then my dad's like, I'm in the 400s and I'm 25 years older than you, and it was kind of scary, and I got on it and felt way better, and then I got off of it, and Chris is off of it as well. I'm thinking about getting back on it, but that's kind of been our journey. So
and like you were saying, the guy I initially went and got blood work with, he immediately threw me on clomiphene because he thought that was and then also offered HCG, and I was super new to just everything hormones. I just knew 250 was low. I didn't know what it was even supposed to be.
And they'll sell it to you like this is okay.
Yeah, and so.
Yeah, and
more than okay. They sell it as a safer alternative.
Right.
They say, "Oh no, you don't want to go on testosterone, legit testosterone."
He said that. He said,
this will mess your dick up. Like you'll never be able to get. And that was a legitimate argument. My guy did that when I first started. I got with a naturopath when I was probably about 21, and he went down the road of Clomid and all that stuff, and it messed me up. He had me on copious amounts of Clomid for months and months and months, and for a very long time. I think, to be honest, his regimen contributed to my low T count when I later went back and actually got on TRT, because my levels were low, like somewhere in the 3s most likely.
And clomiphene and Clomid will make the labs look good, but it doesn't resolve the symptoms.
Yeah, it didn't at all.
And it causes like these ocular side effects, like you can get floaters in your eyes. It can cause fatty liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver down the road, and then like clomiphene, which basically blocks the estrogen receptor, can cause neurodegeneration. Wow. So that's why it's a problem if you're staying on it for years and years. Yeah. There are companies out there that will sell it to men as a natural TRT alternative. Oral TRT, and I'm like, this is not it.
Don't do
It's a sales pitch. Exactly that.
What's frustrating for me though, and I'm sure for Chris, is like, and I could attest to Chris being extremely disciplined, and like looking at him, you'd be like, dude, there's no way this guy's freaking 200s, in the 200s, but he is. And then like at the time when I got on TRT, I was extremely disciplined as well. And it's just frustrating. It's like you do everything right, and then you're in the 300s. Like, how can I win this battle? So anyway, that's
totally.
kind of my rant. And I'm like, I'm 21 years old. I shouldn't be getting on TRT. This is fucking bullshit.
But that's modern lifestyle, and not that you guys had poor lifestyle. Sorry, modern life. Like people don't think guys in their 20s have low T. They still think, like your dad would think, like, oh, my son's probably got like 1800. They still think teenagers and above have these raging testosterone levels, but they don't. And they're where you guys were, and you can be doing everything right, and still it's also the exposure to the endocrine disrupting chemicals in the environment. There's less androgen exposure in the womb nowadays. Like sperm production's gone down 60% in the last few decades. Like it's a real problem.
It's at least one generation old. Our parents got hit with all these toxic environmental factors, and their parents probably were the ones that got hit with it sort of first.
Look at this photo.
So it's going down the chain.
So the other day I was at my uncle's house and I saw a picture of all my uncles, and when they were my age, they all look like lumberjacks. And I'm like, I'm from the same gene pool.
Yeah.
That's one of my slides.
What am I looking at here?
The
far left
feminization of
looks
men.
like Jake.
The feminization of men since the 80s.
Oh, it's horrible.
And predicted to what the 2040s will look like.
I was gonna say most people.
Oh, come on.
Do you like the gorillas I put in front of their dicks? Because they're saying penis size is decreasing.
Is this going to go up in the summit slides?
Yeah.
The slideshow? Good.
Oh, yeah.
It's
going up tomorrow,
yeah,
too.
the guy does look like Jake on the side.
He does,
Jake looks great.
Thanks, Jake, for volunteering your
Big, hairy, chested, beard.
I covered your dick for you.
I used a gorilla, not a spider monkey. It's a compliment.
Jake grew up in Alaska, that's why.
So they also, in tiny print, talk about how penis size is decreasing.
Send that to us. We'll throw it in the B-reel of this.
And then,
that's cool.
So basically, if you guys have heard of Dr. Shanna Swan, she was on Joe Rogan. She's like this tiny old lady. She's so cute. She talks about she wrote a book called Countdown, which basically she was involved in a study that predicted men to be infertile by the year 2048. So she was studying sperm production all around the world, all that stuff. It's a fascinating but very scary book, and how basically a woman, like if I were pregnant with a boy, what I expose myself to, like chemically, can affect his sperm production as an adult.
Wow.
And it's wild to think about. She's so cute. But she talks about...
She would be a fascinating person to speak to.
She's very hard to get a hold of, but she'd be great. Yeah. But because I messaged her a million times, she didn't answer.
Yeah, of course.
But she talks about how, the taint?
Yes.
I do.
It's shrinking, right?
The shrinking,
yep.
Yeah.
So that's, it's called the anogenital distance, and I remember that because it's my initials, AG. So just think of like the AG distance.
I am so addressing you that way when I see you at the summit.
Like, what's up?
What's up, AG?
AG Grundle Gooch.
Grundle Gooch.
That's my new nickname is
Ali
Gooch.
Gooch.
Oh.
So that when that shrinks, it means that there's less androgen exposure, and so that's contributing to penis size shrinking too.
And it's shrunken significantly, right?
You should measure it.
Yeah.
I will.
Yeah.
When we get out of here, I'll go in there. I'll measure it right now.
Yours is
put some of that cream on there and just see what it does.
What about?
Dude, no.
So because of all this misinformation and confusion, and one doctor saying this person saying that, there are no events out there that are directed towards men's health. And even with the medical organizations, they have all women's health conferences. There's nothing for guys. And I was like, why? So I made my own. And 3 years ago, we did the first round of the Silverback Summit, which, like my Silverback logo, which was, by the way, drawn by a guy who worked for Marvel. So he's a Marvel Silverback.
Wow.
So now you need a Silverback somewhere in the gym.
I think I do.
But basically, it brings together my network of TRT physicians, fitness experts, nutrition experts, business coaches. Like, it's morphed from strictly medical to now everything encompassing men's health.
Yeah.
And we attracted a lot of the medical community because they're like, there's no education out there for men's health. So you're going to hear way more in depth as to things on enclomiphene and estrogen and DHEA and pregnenolone for men and ED and all that stuff, because we openly talk about it very unfiltered, because we're not restricted by a medical organization. So that's for literally, it's for practitioners, it's for coaches, it's for enthusiasts. Like, we have guys that have nothing to do with any industry that are attending just because they want to learn.
When is it?
It is November 15 and 16 in Phoenix. So right next door to you guys at the
Awesome.
Sheraton downtown
Heck yeah, it is.
this November.
Okay.
So,
The days, November what?
15 and 16.
15 and 16.
16.
Perfect. Okay, and where would someone go if they want to sign up?
Silverbacksummit.com.
Perfect.
Or you can go to my IG at the Ali Gilbert, ALI, and there's a link in my bio.
Perfect.
Can't wait.
Can't wait. Ali, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you
Seriously.
guys.
Thank
This
you.
has been
Appreciate
great.
it.
What's up, guys? Hope you enjoyed this episode of Becoming the 1% podcast with Ali Gilbert, the Gooch. If you guys want to see other episodes from our podcast, they're going to be located right here.